Hey y'all, I'm Josie,
And I'm Vickie.
and this week we're going to take culture and superstitions little by slowly.
Yeah. So I kind of brought this topic to the table just because I was thinking of certain superstitions that I have in my own life that were passed down by my family. And then that bled really well into this idea of being culturally Catholic. So we're going to start off with talking about cultural Catholicism and our experiences with that. This is going to be really based off of like personal stories and our experiences rather than like us Googling like what culturally Catholic means because it's like our lived experiences. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, glad that we're doing this from our own lived experiences because I think that's something else me and Vicky have been talking about a lot lately, just using our own lived experiences and giving them space. And I think a lot of our topics coming up are revolve that kind of like idea and that kind of framework. So I'm really excited for that and for today. Because when Vicky brought this topic to me, culturally Catholic was something that I have had in my mind lately, but I haven't brought it up to many people because I don't know like if people are gonna understand me if I'm like saying it. But when Vicky was explaining it, I was like, yes, this is what I've had in my mind for the past like year. And I don't know why would I expect anything less than from Vicky for us to have the same like thought train. Like
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
Yeah, I learned the term from my mom because she definitely identifies as someone who's culturally Catholic. She grew up like really Catholic. She went to Catholic school, she had her first communion, she had a confirmation, and then went to Catholic school all the way up until high school. Um, yeah, her Catholic school in middle school had like nuns and everything. She went to church every single Sunday with her dad, my grandfather, who still goes to church and who was the person who took me to church up until I was in high school. So me and my mom had similar experiences in the fact that we both went to Catholic school. We both had our first communions. I didn't end up having my confirmation, but I had my first communion. I passed Catholic school. And I went to church all the way up until eighth grade. And then when I got into high school, they're kind of like, you can make your own choices now. Like, go off to you. And I chose no church. But I definitely stuck with some of the traditions that um, might seem a little Catholic, but are also really ingrained in like Latinx culture.
I'm glad that you bring that up. Like how you stick with those that are ingrained within Latinx culture. Because when I think about being culturally Catholic, I think about how like a lot of people in my family I feel like they're Catholic because of how ingrained things are. And within my family, we weren't churchgoers. By no means were we ever like churchgoers, but they would have us do the confirmations and like the first baptisms and all that stuff. And when I would ask why, there would really never be much of a reason other than like, oh, it's tradition, it's something we always do. But there was really never any like religious meaning from it. It was just kind of like, oh, this is what our family does, and so we did it. And we weren't even like the kind that just like go to church on like because I know there's people who go to church just for like the big holidays. We did not. We did not. But I know like my family finds a lot of like peace and um I guess stillness and knowing that they're able to like pray to like La Virgen Maria or to Jesus and just like being able to pray that. And I think that brings them a lot of stillness. And so I'm glad that they have that, but that's something that I never really carried in for me because I didn't see like any bigger meaning there with it. When I did do my confirmation and stuff, I don't know what we did like an expedited program, um, and that was that was weird. It was
Why was
weird.
it weird?
Because well, me and my brother, we were doing it together. We were like the oldest ones there. And so like we would like it was just like weird because it went by like really fast. my brother was going through a crisis at the time, and I remember like before we were about to like finish, he was like, I don't think God's gonna love me," and I was like,
Oh no.
I was like, I don't know how to address this with you right now. Um, but we did it. Yeah, I feel like it was just, I feel like I'm saying weird because it was like kind of like an emotionally heavy time for us. Um, and again, I think it just came with more doubts as to why are we doing this. But the only reason my mom really wanted us to do it was so that way if we get married, we can get married in a church like you're supposed to within.
Okay.
Uh-huh. That's the only reason we ever did it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember ever questioning why. Like I don't remember ever going like, why are we even doing this? It just seemed like my grandpa is really, well, my mom's dad, to clarify, or my grandpa is very like stoic and like quiet sometimes, but he's also like really goofy and like likes to tease people and crack jokes. So he has those like two sides to him. But whenever it came to church and whenever it came to like religion, he was always very like stoic and like it wasn't like you weren't supposed to ask questions about it. You just kind of trusted him. You just trusted in like that this is like what he wanted to do. This is what makes him feel like good. So yeah, I don't know. I always would laugh to myself thinking back on the times that I would go to church with him, because he always would pinch my arms and my sides because I would fall asleep during mass. And he never like, because I was his like I still am. I was gonna say I was, but I still am his little chiquita. So he would never get mad at me, and my mom would always be like, he can never get mad at his little chiquita. But like you can definitely tell like that he would get very annoyed with me, that I was being like disrespectful, because he'd like pinch me because I would knock out. It's like the loud organ would start playing and I would get like that really soothingness. It would just feel really peaceful and soothing and I'd fall asleep. And I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around what the issue is. And I think that's when I realized that not that it's not that Catholicism isn't something that I don't like take seriously, because I do. It's just not something that I think will ever be like a major, like I won't go to church on my own. Like I think that's when I realized it, that I'll do all of the little stuff, but I don't think that I'll go as far as like getting like mad at someone if they don't understand, or just stuff like that. I definitely, just going back to what I said before, I'm definitely like, I'll hold on to the the culturally Catholic things. And I guess we can talk a little bit about those like specific culturally Catholic things, at least the ones in my family. But every New Year, we'll like, I don't know if this is Catholic. We'll take like money and we'll put it in our bra, and you have to keep it in there until the next till like it's 1 a.m. or 12 the next day. We'll pray on like a coin and bury it in a plant with your right hand, and then you have to take it out with your left. What else? You have to wear red underwear and red bra. We'll do that as well. And then like I have a little altar in my room, and then my mom has her own altar downstairs where we'll light candles with different saints on them, and we'll pray on them first, just to like realize our intent, and then we'll put it down. And then the altar always has like different like stones and items that like we hold value like to ourselves, and also pictures of like our loved ones and those who like have passed away. And then we'll do the Day of the Dead stuff, which is like putting the candles out and the bread and the wine and the food and stuff to help them like pass over. We have we have little crosses over all of our doors that have like that are made out of cinnamon sticks. So we have those, and they're twined together with like a red string. And then I used to have like a red bracelet, that like a red string really around my wrist, but it broke and I need to get another one. And my grandma was so upset when it broke because that meant that someone's evil eye was like a little too strong. Yeah, so she was really upset. So I definitely have to go ask her to procure me a new one.
Right.
But yeah, I'll probably think of some more stuff, but that's what I can remember off the top of my head that we kind of do daily slash is just around me all the time. Oh, also for like a really, really, really long time, I had like I don't even like a huge portrait of like a white looking Jesus in my room. Like a really long time, and it's still downstairs, and it's one of those like portraits where it looks like he's looking at you all of the time. And yeah, and when I moved my room upstairs because I live at home, I definitely did not want to take him with me. So he's still downstairs. But I do have like I know that you gave me like a postcard of the Virgen de Guadalupe, and I have that next to my bed. And then I also purchased this really pretty, I can insert a picture here. I'll take a better one than the one I sent you. But a really pretty like what did you call it? Oh, shadow box of the
Yeah.
Virgen de Guadalupe, and it has like her picture, and it has all these really sparkly red stones all around it. And I keep that around my next to my bed for like protection while I sleep and stuff.
Some of them you're gonna see some connecting like overlapping ones that we have. But when I was living with my grandma, all the rooms have like a little picture of Jesus, and I don't like. Again, it's not something that I like really prescribe to, and it was like facing my bed, and I was like, I don't want Jesus to look at me like when I'm getting dressed. So then I tried to take it out of the room, and then my grandma was like, "Why'd you take it out of the room?" And I was like,
That's why I didn't take mine with me, because I hated watching him watch me get dressed.
right,
Yeah.
right. And I looked at my grandma and I was like, "Ooh," and she was like, "No tienes que retrasar a Dios," and I was like, okay, like you know, to, like essentially just saying like you're not supposed to you're not supposed to reject him, and I'm like, okay. I was like, sorry. um
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah. My grandma, she loves her religion. Like my grandma on my mom's side, she goes to church, she does all of that, but she's never been the kind to like, she'll be like, oh, if you want to come with me you can, but you don't have to, and I'm like, okay. But some of the things that I still carry on in my life is when I'm driving, or especially when I'm getting on the highway, doing the little cross real quick for me and everyone in the car.
I was sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was about to say that as soon as something, okay, me doing this when you said what your grandma said reminded me of that, because my grandpa does that every single time he gets in his car. Is he does a little Son, the God, and Holy Spirit and all that kind of stuff, and then he makes me do it too, and I never remember to do it, and he always yells at me. But I just wanted to
Mhm.
say that that is something that he does religiously.
Yeah, that's something my mom taught me, and like I've seen all my family do. And so sometimes I'll be driving and I'll forget, and I'll be like, I'm like, good. I'm
Yeah.
doing it right now. So that we always, again, in cars and vehicles, we always put a cross in the car to hang off right now. I don't have one in my car. I don't think my grandma has noticed, because last time she noticed and she was like, "You need to have one in your car." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." So I need to get a new one. And I think other things that we do also similar, with the New Year's traditions, like praying before you go to bed, like if you're having like bad dreams. One time I had sleep paralysis and I told my mom, and she said,
Yeah.
and I looked up sleep paralysis and it was just like, oh yeah, it's a mental thing. And I told my mom and she was like, no, it's not. A demon was trying to enter your body. You need to pray and make sure you're not like sleeping with your arms closed like a dead person. I was like, ma'am, I need you to slow down a little bit.
Like comes over and tries to perform an exorcism.
Yeah. And so I was like, but I guess like that experience in that moment made me like realize of like how many things like in my family, like if they're like mental things, they'll like attribute it to like religion a lot. um so like if I'm having a hard time sleeping, they're like, oh, it's because you didn't pray at night. Or if you have a bad dream, it's like, oh, because you didn't pray at night, and like stuff like that. But sometimes when I do get like weird vibes in my room, I will start praying, because I'm like, it feels calming. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Yeah, and I think those are like the big ways that I continue to see like Catholicism like ingrained in my day to day. There was another one that I was thinking of, but it out of my mind.
I remember two more. I
Okay.
feel like the more I talk, the more my family sounds like hardcore religious, but I swear to God, they're not. My mom has a guardian angel in her car that whenever she's driving in any car, she'll take it out and put it in the car. So we had to rent like a car because our car was in the shop, and my mom like almost freaked out because she thought she left it in that car, and so she had to go get it. And then also, we make sure that we do like a limpia on like the house. Like if you go to move to a new place, like we pray in every corner and make sure that like there's no lingering spirits there and stuff. And I remember when we first moved into this house, the previous owner was an elderly woman and she passed away in this room. And yeah, but no, it's fine because like my grandma cleaned it and she like
Okay.
did the prayers and she like she cleaned it, and it was I feel like people who don't believe will be like, oh, it was just like in your head. But when you walked in, it felt like really thick and really scary and really like uncomfortable. But like after my grandma cleaned it and did everything that like she was supposed to do, like it felt like you could finally breathe in here. And it was like a entirely different vibe. So that's why I'm just like, no, we're good. This room is mine, my space. Whoever was chilling in here, they're gone.
And like, what's it called? I don't believe that it's like, oh, it's in your head because sometimes like I'll be in a space before I learn anything about that space and you feel it. Like that one time we went to,
Oh yes,
no,
yes, yes,
yes,
yes. Can we tell
yes,
the story? Tell that
yes, yes,
story.
yes, yes, yes. So we had gone to our friend's apartment and brand new apartment. It was a nice little studio. But you had to take an elevator up to her floor. It was like what, like the seventh floor that she lived on? Something like that. And like the second you entered, it just the lighting shifted. It felt like a yellow bluish tint. It felt really thick, and you felt like something was like watching you the whole time.
Yeah,
And like at no time when we were in the building, from the entrance to the elevator to going into her apartment and leaving and back, we did not see anyone in that building.
yeah.
And so we were like, this haunted. We're never coming back again.
What made me notice it was that like because it was like a group of us that went to visit her place, and we were all in a really good mood before we went there, and we were all excited, and we were all like just like because we're all friends and we're all close. But as soon as we got in there and we stayed for like however long we stayed, we were sniping at each other and we were fighting, and everyone just seemed agitated and angry, and the air felt so thick. Even if we opened the window, like there was not a single breeze coming in, even though outside was like windy. That's what ticked me off, because I was just like, why are we acting so like agitated towards each other when it didn't make any sense? Yeah.
I don't think I don't think I was as perceptive to like that, to the energies of people. But you're right, because like when you're in a space that has that kind of like negative energy and like encounters, like it really does impact the way you then interact with others. And I don't think I had paid attention to that. I was really focused on like that, and then the little roach that came up. I was like, the roach was something else for me too, because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like in horror movies, what do you always see? Little flickering bathroom, little roach coming up. You're like, gotta
Yeah.
go.
To give a little context, it wasn't like it was a really old building, and it was an old hotel that had been converted into an apartment building.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a very, very old building. So
Didn't she say that there used to be tunnels underneath that?
yeah.
Because yeah, I don't remember who would use it, but I remember she was telling us about it, and I was like,
Mhm.
you invited us here, like,
Yeah.
and she was like, I don't feel it, and I was like,
For however long she lived there, I honestly never went back to her place. Like I'd meet her outside or we'd meet somewhere else. I never went back inside of that building. I should have known as soon as she said that it was like very, very old. So if you look up any sort of like old building who used to be a hotel in Chicago, then you'll find that space.
Right. And like, I think it was interesting because nobody really talked about how bad the space was until we left. Because I think that's also just like really bad to do, to like acknowledge it. Because then it's like, what are you going to be agitating? Like,
In the car ride home, we were all silent for a little bit, and then we're like, we all felt those vibes, right? And then the car just like erupted with all of us like talking about it because we all felt it.
yeah. So yeah, definitely. I just don't think it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, it's just all in your head, because you feel it
Mhm.
even before you know about the space. But I do think my family, I've never seen my family do any like cleansings or anything like that, but I wish that like I understood the way that process worked. Because I don't, and sometimes I feel like I do want to be able to cleanse space. So I don't know, something to
I'll
learn.
show you one time. You want me to clean
um
a space for you, I'll do it. Because my grandma is very big on like passing down those kind of traditions and like making sure that we understand specifically like what supplies to get. Because we clean the house every new year too, because we want to get rid of like the
mhm,
bad energy and vibes that were from the past year. I don't know what those little, oh, they're like botanica shops, but the little like Mexican owned botanica shops that have all of the special like mixtures of stuff that has like holy water and other things, and they're like random colors and they smell really good.
yeah,
We get those.
my grandma who lives here, I think she goes to those shops and she'll get stuff from them, but I've never really talked to her about it, because again, like, my mom, there's a lot of things that my grandma does that my mom just stopped doing, and so I think that influenced me a lot. um and my grandma doesn't really talk about it, but I'm sure if I were to like be like, hey, so when you go to the stores, what are you going for, I'm sure she'll tell me. But
Or go with
it,
her.
true. But yeah, and I think my family has a lot of, they admire La Virgen de Guadalupe a lot, and I think growing up we never really prayed to God, we never really prayed to Jesus, it was always to La Virgen Maria. And so I think for like us in our family, um when something bad would happen, my tia Mabel, she would do this a lot, where she really wanted to have a child, so she kept praying to the Virgin Maria, and she said, okay, well, if I'm able to get a child, then I will go your to the place where you arrived in Mexico, and like crawl on my knees, because that's something that people do when La Virgen Maria is able to complete like your prayer. And she did, she ended up having two children after that, and she did that. um and to me, like, I don't think it's something I would ever engage with and do, but I think it's beautiful that people are able to find what they're looking for through that. And so yeah, in my family there's always just been a really big admiration towards her. And I remember the other thing I wanted to say was that growing up, I didn't think Jesus was white. I thought Jesus was from Mexico. I thought he was Mexican. And I thought his parents were Mexican, because my family is Mexican, and all the religious movies we would watch, they would be dubbed in Spanish. So I just assumed I had only encountered Mexicans, so the only people who I thought spoke Spanish was Mexicans. So I was like, oh, they're speaking in Spanish, so they're Mexican.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think it wasn't until like sixth or seventh grade that like I came to the realization that those movies were originally in English.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus in fact was not Mexican. So
That's pretty funny. You thought Jesus was Jesus?
but I guess we've already started talking on superstitions a little bit. Do you want to fully transition into that, or
We can, yeah.
so?
Do you consider yourself a superstitious person?
Yes, I do consider myself a superstitious person, because I think I do a lot of things that like I do out of like superstitious like ideas. And like, for example, like, with that whole sleep paralysis thing, I think my mom is right, and I'm convinced it's not a mental thing anymore.
Uh-huh.
Or there are these little things called, I will give into superstitions really easily. Because I remember watching this one TikTok and it was talking about like duendes, which are like these little like small gnomes. And like if you leave your window open, they'll like stare at you. And then at night, like if you wake up with tangled hair, it's because they were like messing with your hair and tangling it up. So there's just these little gnomes that like to play like tricks and stuff like that. And I remember since that night, like I always make sure my window is fully closed. My window should be fully closed for other reasons too, but that wasn't enough to make me
Uh-huh.
feel like I had to do it.
Okay.
Okay, it wasn't until
Getting
like these
snapped and
like
robbed.
yeah, like it's snatched and raw, but like
Yeah.
the gnomes really just sent me off. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so I think because of superstitions and the way I give into them, I am more likely to want to do things to protect myself, my energy. I think some superstitions that I think are really, I think big for me are really like the mirror ones.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
or even just like the idea that like mirrors are supposed to be like portals. I have a mirror right in front of my bed. You're not supposed to do that. I do. I just don't look at it at night. I will averge my look, but because of the way my room is set up, I can't really put it anywhere else either.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, pretty much whenever I hear of a superstition, I will fully believe with fully believe in it with all my heart.
Yeah. Um, I believe I'm a really superstitious person as well, and I don't think I'm that like susceptible to superstitions. I feel like I have to hear a story from like a loved one or a friend, and then I'm like, I'll do it. I'll 100% start doing that, or I'll stop doing that. Like my mom, this isn't like a super significant story, but like when she told me that, I was like, oh, true, I'll start doing this. And you might have noticed that I do it sometimes, or I've talked to you about it before. Um, but if you hit one of your elbows and you don't immediately rub both of them, like this, just like rubbing them, then you'll get a surprise. And it could be a good surprise or a bad surprise. So my mom, one time, she knew the superstition existed, but didn't do it very often. Like she'd do it when she remembered. And she would, so she bumped her elbow and then went into work, and her boss sent her home early for something like dumb, like it was like she didn't do something correctly, or she didn't do something the way she was supposed to, or something like that. And it would have normally not been a big deal, but her boss was like surprisingly in a bad mood that day, so he sent her home early. And she didn't get like the full pay or whatever. She was younger, so it was probably like a retail job. um and so now every time that she hits her elbow, she rubs both of them, because she doesn't want to surprise, she doesn't want to chance it to be a bad surprise when it could also be a good surprise. It's a 50-50 chance. So every time I like knock my elbow, or like someone hits elbows with me, I'll like rub my elbows. And yeah, one of my past partners that I was dating, when they would hit their elbow, I'd rub their elbows for them, and they were so annoyed and they hated that I did that because they didn't believe in the superstitions. And I was like, I'm not letting you get a good or bad surprise. I'm watching your back.
I've noticed you do that. I don't think I've never asked you why, because for me it just made sense. Like it's a balancing thing, but I think it's interesting now that I know, and I will probably start doing that. Also, you know when you say something, you're like, oh, something bad's gonna happen. You're like, knock on wood. That's a big one.
I do
But then
that.
I'll knock on my head if there's no wood around.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
love that.
also,
Yeah, because like I before I started doing that, I would be like, oh, there's no wood around, and my dad would knock on my head, and he'd walk away, and he'd be like, oh, you gotta knock on a dummy's head, because dummies are made out of wood. So now every time I'll knock on my own head, and sure, it's a little self-deprecating, but I can be a dummy sometimes, so I think it counts.
yeah, I think it counts too. So not because I think you're a dummy. I want to make that clear.
Got it. Yeah, I understood. But I was thinking while you were talking, the mirror thing, I think I do that too. I'll make sure that none of my mirrors in my room are facing each other, because then like spooky things are gonna happen, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's just like so many superstitions out there. And sometimes I think about how overwhelming it would be to like know all of them and follow all of them. But I know which ones I like pertain to me and I feel are like big to me. Oh, I was just thinking, do you know the one about splitting a pole?
Oh yeah, I follow that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know why it is, but somebody taught it to me and I've just followed it ever since. Like you're not supposed to split. I think it was you. I don't know. Who else would it be? Who else would it be?
It's just bad luck. It's just bad luck. It's
Yeah.
bad luck for whoever's left on the side of the pole, who, like the outside of the pole.
Right.
Anyways, one
So
on the inside of the pole with a group. So I feel
yeah.
like I follow those kind of like superstitions, but I don't follow like if you like step on a crack then you'll like break your mom's back or something like that. Like I don't follow those, but I also don't
No.
like if I like I did this today actually. I was outside helping my mom garden today and I accidentally swept one of my feet, so I went back and I swept both of my feet because like if you sweep your own feet then like something that's gonna happen, or like not putting your purse on the floor because then you're going to lose
Yes.
your money, and then never letting your wallet be empty. So like even if it's like 50 cents in your wallet, you always want to have some sort of like money in your wallet. And that one I learned in high school because I was going to this Mexican restaurant that was literally right behind my school, and I brought the exact money to buy a burrito for lunch, exact money and exact change. And I did that on purpose. And I went in, and the owner of the store, her son actually went to the high school that I went to. And she said hi because she knows all like the students and stuff. And I gave her the money. And then she saw that my wallet was empty and she gave me back 50 cents because she was just like, you never want your wallet to be empty because that's bad luck. And I was like, that's really sweet. So now I never let my wallet be empty because I'm just like, it's bad luck.
That was sweet. That was sweet of her. I have also heard all of those and do follow those as well, especially with the money one. Another one we do on New Year's is with $2. Like my grandma will give us $2 bills, and we just keep them throughout the year. Because she's like, I think it's because like she knows not many people will like take $2 bills. Like legally, like you can't pay with $2 bills, but it's just like a double way to like ensure that you're not going to spend that money, so that way you're never without. But yeah, the step on the crack, break your mother's back one was never one that
No.
I felt more like a rhyme than a superstition.
Do you believe in the one where like if a black cat crosses your path?
No,
Okay.
I don't know what it is about that one. I just don't believe in that one, but I do believe in the one where you, if you, again, kind of like the pole one, like if you're going underneath us.
The ladder.
Ladder.
Yeah,
I mean, that just seems unsafe too, but
yeah, I was about to say. I was like, also that's really unsafe for the person on the ladder and you. So don't do that anyway, kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the money, the bag on the floor one is very big. Because I know like a lot of people who just put their bag on the floor, and I'm like, that's bad luck. It's also I just don't think it's clean, but
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I it bothers me a little when I notice it on the floor and I hadn't noticed it on the floor. Like we hung out the other day and our bags fell on the floor, and Josie noticed before I did, and I was like, oh. I was like, how long has it been there? Yeah.
yeah. But I think last year, I think it's weird when you're around non-superstitious people, because last year with my roommate, she was sweeping, and she like um and then she had accidentally like swept over my feet, and I was like because I didn't know what you're supposed to do to correct that, so I was like I was like, please don't ever do that again. And she was just like standing there like, what did I just
Yeah. I
Um,
don't know the official way to correct it, but I just like, because I always accidentally sweep one of my feet because I always stand kind of like the way you stand when you're supposed to like hit a like a baseball or a softball. That's the way I stand when I sweep.
yeah.
Um, so I accidentally always sweep one foot, and all I'll do is go back and sweep the other and sweep the other. So I don't know if that's how you correct it, but I
I
I
mean,
treat
it's
it,
been working.
I treat it like the elbow thing.
Balance, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the it says if someone is sweeping the floor and sweeps over your feet, you'll never get married. Well, that's too late.
I'm gonna choke on my water. That's funny. Me sweeping my feet over and over again, thinking that that's how you correct it. I'm getting like 500 years of never getting married.
This one also says don't take a broom along when you move, throw it out and buy a new one. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found two ways to correct it. One of them is either you spit on the broom or you lay the broom down and then jump over it. So I guess that makes sense because then you're not giving the broom like that power to give you that bad luck. And that's kind of like what it seems like with whenever you're breaking a superstition, like with the that one salt one. If you knock over like some salt and stuff, you're supposed to grab it and throw it over. Like I guess you're just trying to get over it, um, or put it behind you.
Yeah. I want to thank you all for listening to us today. I had a lot of fun talking about this. I feel like time went by really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, it always happens that way when we talk about our own personal experiences and we talk about just like our lives. So this was a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing these experiences with me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your experiences with me too. I think every time we do this, I am reminded that even though I've known you for the amount of time that I've known you, I'll never really know you. It
So bad.
does sound bad, but it brings me happiness because it means me learning and growing with you is never going to end.
Okay.
And so I think that's when I'm appreciative of us having this space, and I'm appreciative of being able to share this space with our viewers. So yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you for watching for a 8th week in a row. Yeah. Bye, y'all.
Bye.